Well, I can tell you we are certainly happy to be carrying your books now on the Infowars.com website. And, you know, right here I have Alex Jones, his personal copy of When Technology Fails. And let me tell you something, he's got about every other page marked, you know, you could tell he's highlighted different pages and what have you. This book has been well read. And now you've come up with a smaller, more compact version. And like I was telling you before we went on, you know, my son was telling me, he looked through this. We have our own disaster kit, and he's 20 years old, learning how to be a survivalist, what have you. And he says, Dad, this book is perfect, you know, to put in our kit. So, so that's, you know, I'm ordering this as well, or just walking back there and grabbing one. But so this will be included in our kit as well. So in closing, before we go, I wanted to go back and touch once again on the potential nuclear Armageddon, because I'm curious as what, if anything, is being done about this. You know, are the governments of the world, are they preparing for this? Are they just ignoring the problem? What can we do to escalate things to kind of, you know, get them to move on this and try to do something about, you know, total destruction?
Well, there's a SHIELD Act in Congress right now, and it's come close to passing, and there was a predecessor to that. I forget the name of that, EMP Act or something. And so the awareness is increasing, but we need to put pressure on Congress to pass it. See, part of the problem is the SHIELD Act is worded that it puts it on the back of the utilities, not the government, to fix it. And basically says, well, after a couple of years, if it costs you a lot of money and you can't get your money back, then come to us and you can petition and we'll help you out. So they got all their high-priced lobbyists lobbying the government to say, nah, vote against the SHIELD Act. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it, because they're profit motivated. It's money out of their pocket to pay for preventative measures. There's no increasing the bottom line, unless, of course, you know, Armageddon happens and then they'll say, oh, God, we should have spent that $2 billion. We're actually talking only roughly $1 billion to fix the grid, the critical items of the grid, to prevent them from burning up in a solar storm or an EMP. And we're talking about another $1 billion to provide backup fuel in EMP-hardened containers with spare parts like batteries and generators and critical parts to make sure that these nuclear power plants could get back up and running. So, and you've got a little difference, because in EMP, you know, an EMP and a solar storm are related but not the same. EMP, electromagnetic pulse, is when they launch a nuke up and it blows off, say, 25 to 150 miles above the planet, and it's a big electromagnetic pulse. Yeah. Well, there's an E1 effect, which is like speed of light, that happens in nanoseconds, like fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a blink of an eye. And that tends to fry microchips, and it tends to induce currents that can damage digital electronic control systems that are critical for keeping our power plants functioning, including nuclear, keeping our sewage functioning, keeping all of our industrial processes functioning, our communication systems functioning. And in EMP tests, they found that most of your personal electronics in your house will survive okay unless it's turned on at the time. And most of your cars will be okay. And pretty much 100% of the cars will be okay, except for the ones that are functioning. And about 30% of those, 15 to 30% of those might have issues and problems. About 1 out of 7 will tend to stall on the road. But the real problem is that all of the stuff connected with Ethernet cables, all the computers and digital control systems connected with long runs of cables that keep all of our industrial systems and infrastructure going, those are going to cook. And included in those, so that means in an EMP, not a solar storm, but in an EMP, those short-term effects could cause nuclear meltdowns to start happening in 15 minutes after an EMP. And so they're having the stuff on hand to do a quick change out, get those things rolling, get them running. That could be, you know, life or death, and people need to be trained and know that right away. Now, solar storm, it doesn't have the short-term effects. The EMP has a short-term, it has an E2 effect. That's like 50,000 lightning bolts happening in a half a second. Solar storm doesn't have that effect either. But then the E3 effect of an EMP is a long, slow burn. That happens from about a half a second to like 15, 20 minutes, a half hour later. Well, in a solar storm, that long, slow burn can go on for 2 days to 5 days to a week. Who knows how long it might go? Recorded history, we had a 2-day event in 21 and a 7-day event in 1859. So, you know, that's just giving you a sense of it. So they're related but not the same. EMP, much smaller area. small nuke on a Scud missile, you're talking probably a 500-mile circle, certainly enough to fry New York City, Washington, D.C., most of the Northeast, shut down the stock exchange, and melt down, 10 or 20 nukes could start melting down. A big nuclear device, like they bought one on the black market from one of the failed states in the Soviet Union, managed to get a larger missile like something that Iran or North Korea had and blow it off really high above the planet, then you're talking a 1,500-mile circle. You're talking Dallas, Texas, to Miami, and up to Quebec City. So you're talking 2/3 of the population of the United States within that circle, and you're talking most of the nukes in the United States within that circle. You're talking a pretty big, serious effect. Good news with an EMP, the rest of the world is still there to come in and help out and help rebuild. Bad news in an EMP is more stuff is cooked and more stuff is fried. So you could have, you don't know until it happens how many of those backup generators at nukes are going to survive the EMP and kick in, and how many of them will get cooked and won't kick in.
Well, let's hope something like that never happens, but we definitely got to be prepared for all three of those situations you just mentioned, because we do live in that time and age. Mr. Stein, I want to thank you for spending time with us today. Like I said, Alex Jones certainly loves your books. I recommend that everyone buy a copy, this Disaster Strikes is perfect for a disaster kit. And like I said, we certainly enjoy you sitting with us today, and I wish you a good day, sir.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope I've been able to help people out, and God bless, and go out and do your best. Thank you.
Thank you much. Well, that about does it for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back, Lord willing, about the same time tomorrow evening. Until then, God bless.